Welcome to the Den, the Dark Entertainment Network. I'm the Gothic Rose, and this is the dark tale of the day. Hello, dear fiends of the Den. I am the Gothic Rose, and as you know, here at the Dark Entertainment Network, this is a channel where the news meets conspiracy theories. It makes babies in my brain, and it comes out my mouth. If you like this type of content, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Hello, dear fiends of the den. I am back from a brief break. I had a little bout with the shingles. They're still there a little bit. Not feeling so bad today, though, and it is time to get back to the haunted history of Hollywood. As you know, I made my first Hollywood White House connection in 1915 when D.W. Griffin premiered The Birth of a Nation at the White House when Woodrow Wilson was president. And 3 years later, Woodrow Wilson denounced the film. But as you know, or as you've wondered, let's say if you ever had that thought in your mind, I wonder how connected Hollywood and politics actually are. Oh, they are deeply intertwined, and that is what we are going to discuss and explore today in the Den. And honestly, this is what I have been living for. All of these stories are here for a reason. The entire haunted history of Hollywood is here for a reason. And part of my belief is that the government needed an outlet to get its messages out to the masses, whatever they want, right wing, left wing, because the newspapers were not as effective as star power. So let's talk more about this. All right, so the golden age of silent films, an era of glitz and glamour and political undercurrents shaping the entertainment industry. So during this time, politics and cinema, as I said, were deeply intertwined. Silent films were often used as a medium for social commentary, with labor movements and socialist ideals finding their way onto the screen. Hollywood itself evolved politically, shifting from a more critical stance in the 1930s to a cooperative relationship with the Roosevelt administration during World War II. So, for broader political themes, the Democratic and Republican parties were grappling with major issues, including prohibition and the suffragette. The 1920s saw the rise in the temperance movement, which led to the total and complete ban on alcohol with the 18th Amendment. Prohibition, a 13-year ban on alcohol. And this had a huge and profound impact on Hollywood. So, Prohibition in the United States lasted from 1920 to 1933, banning the manufacture, transportation, and sale of alcohol. It was driven by the temperance movement, which sought to curb alcohol consumption due to concerns about its effects on society, including domestic violence and political corruption. And the 18th Amendment and the Volstead Act enforced the ban, though alcohol consumption itself was not illegal. This led to bathtub gin and people making whiskey illegally, and the rise of organized crime, bootlegging, and speakeasies. So figures like Al Capone rose to prominence at this time, and the policy became increasingly unpopular, especially during the Great Depression, because it reduced tax revenue and imposed rural Protestant values on urban America. Oh, history, we're probably about to repeat ourselves again, it feels. And it was ultimately repealed by the 21st Amendment in 1933, the same year that the Screen Actors Guild made its way into Hollywood. And this marked the only time a constitutional amendment was passed and overturned. Now, Prohibition had a very profound impact on Hollywood shaping the film industry and the films produced. So when the Volstead Act took effect in 1920, banning alcohol, of course, it did not stop Hollywood from indulging. It just pushed drinking underground. So now bootleggers became a fixture in the film industry, supplying liquor to studio executives, actors, and directors. And it fueled the rise of gangster films, which became wildly popular in the 1930s, modeled after Al Capone. Movies like The Public Enemy and Scarface depicted the world of bootlegging and organized crime, reflecting the real life consequences of prohibition and the audiences struggling through the Great Depression, oh, history, found themselves drawn to the film, which portrayed gangsters as rebellious figures fighting against a corrupt system. And there was so much unrest during this time, and Hollywood was undergoing a huge transformation. The influence of organized crime seeped into the industry, with mobsters gaining power behind the scenes. And by the time Prohibition was repealed in 1933, Hollywood had cemented its reputation as a place where glamour and vice coexisted. I had to go back to the beginning, back to 1908, to find out that Thomas Edison had so much control over the movie industry and the fight for these artists. But now we're finding out how they are intertwined with politics, which we know by some politicians and actors intermingling roles. We will get to those, and it happened a little bit sooner than you think. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. And if you have any tips to share, please email me at welcometothedenpodcast.com. If you'd like to be a guest, let me know. You just must be 21 and over. And my dear fiends of the den, if you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And thank you always for joining me here on the Dark Entertainment Network.